masking part. He was welcome to handle the press and be patted on the back by the top brass. Being in the limelight had never felt like her natural habitat, although she'd been forced into it from time to time during her career, which had always been, technically at least, widely successful. So, when she'd made the decision to return to work, her old boss at the Thames Valley Police HQ, Commander Marcus Donlevy, had been only too pleased to welcome her back. Moreover, she suspected that he had ordered Crail to give her only the cold cases that covered murder and the more serious crimes. She'd solved the very first murder case he'd given her just a few weeks ago, but unfortunately she'd somehow managed to pick up an admirer in the process. Both she and Crail were inclined to think that it was someone at the station. Whether a working officer or a member of the civilian staff, they weren't yet sure. It had started off with flowers mysteriously appearing on her desk, then Valentine cards, then written messages that were left creepily on her narrowboat, the Mollern. The texting was relatively new and had only started last week, but she was becoming bombarded with them. He was upping his campaign. With any chance of going back to sleep now thoroughly shot to hell, Hilary rose and took a rapid 2-minute shower in the tiny cubicle that comprised practically all of her minute bathroom, then slipped into her underwear and stood before her wardrobe thinking. Should she wear something colourful or not? On the one hand, the thought of pandering to the creep made her flesh crawl. But his messages were getting bolder, and the one this morning had more or less openly admitted that he'd be seeing her sometime today, presumably at the office. And whilst the HQ at Kidlington was vast, with potentially hundreds of male suspects, there was just the chance that if she did wear something bright, she might just catch some male eye giving her more notice than was strictly necessary. But did she really want to feed his fantasies? Already her stalker seemed to think they were engaged in some sort of secret romantic affair, which meant that he was a fantasist as well, and possibly even mentally ill. If she showed up dressed to the nines, did she really want to reinforce his sick fixation on her? She donned a black skirt and black tights, and pulled out a matching black jacket. Her hand lingered over her choice of blouse. She could wear a brightly coloured one, which might or might not be construed as a message. Or she could go monochrome with something in white, which would send a message of a far different sort. But, on the other hand, did she really want to antagonise him? Or would going for the white option make him angry enough to react in some way, thus broadening their chances of catching him? Decisions, she thought, her lips grimacing wryly. Come what may, she had the feeling that no matter what she did, her choice wouldn't please Stephen Crail. As she stood there in the early morning light, the sunlight catching her long, bell-shaped cap of dark red hair, Hilary Greene contemplated Stephen Crail with decidedly mixed emotions. Then, angry at herself for all this dithering, she reached inside the wardrobe for a faux silk blouse in emerald green and slipped it on. Then she donned the jacket and went aft to her small galley kitchen in search of a meagre breakfast. Since retiring and taking to the canals, she'd lost nearly a stone in weight and didn't want to put it back on. Although she still retained a rather curvy, hourglass figure that made most men look at her with more than a passing interest, she had no desire to become even more curvaceous. Again, she found herself contemplating Stephen Crail. Did he like his women to be fashionably thin, or did he prefer curves? She scowled down at her brown bread toast, spread with that tasteless stuff that was supposed to have the sort of fat in it that was actually good for your cholesterol levels, and found herself silently cursing all men, be they stalkers or handsome younger detective superintendents. In his office, Stephen Crail glanced up from his chair behind his desk as there came a sharp tap at his door. A moment later it opened to reveal a young woman with long, lushly curling brown hair.